Welcome to the Story Tinker Podcast, a place for in-depth analysis of webtoon stories. Co-hosted by sharp, witty, and dare I say thirsty fans, we dive deep into every episode, analyzing character struggles, relationship development, and of course, theories. You can follow the Story Tinker on YouTube, podcast platforms, and social media. For bonus content, sneak peeks, and more, you can support the Story Tinker on Patreon. We are really appreciative of your likes, subscribes, and follows on all platforms. Thank you for listening to the Story Tinker, and let's get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 48 of Purple Hyacinth on the Story Tinker podcast, Memorable Mistake. And today we are with Fwoot and Emma.
Hello.
Hello.
All right. So last episode ended off with Lauren finding a very mysterious man and chasing after him, banging his head into a wall, and discovering, I think she named him last time too, right? She already named him Tim's Sake. So here we have, this episode starts out with a bunch of flashbacks. So we see three men sitting around a pool table. No, gambling, some kind of gambling game. Sorry, I don't know any of this stuff. And we see two guys and we see Tim's Sake looking a little bit younger.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is Golden.
Is it Golden? I thought it was Sake, Onslow, and Chow.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Sorry, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. So thank you so much, Fwoot. And
I don't know, it might be Golden. I can't tell.
Yeah, it probably makes more sense that it's supposed to be Chow. This is what happens when you don't review the episode before you do it.
Oh, I didn't review it either.
Oh, okay. Just remember.
Yeah.
So we see a close-up of Chow, the man who is soon to be named Chow, and Tim's Sake looking at him, and he's kind of giving him like this underhanded glance over here. To me, it looks like an how do you say it? Antipathy. So antipathetic glance. I don't know if that's a word, but it does not look like a very happy glance to me. And then we have a different scene. We have someone on the floor. We have a bunch of the APD. We have March, maybe Will. It looks like Grace and Andrew. And we have someone lying on the floor and looks deceased. And guess what? We recognize those glasses. Looks like that same guy from the pool or the gambling. And March says, Detective Cooper, you will be in charge of this case. Detective Sinclair will assist you. And he says, yes, sir. And now we have cut to the ABD and interrogation room. And Lauren comes in the room and looks like Tim's Sake is sitting there. She says, Tim's Sake, is it? You're one of the last people who saw Mr. Kevin Chow alive. Can you tell me what happened last night? So she's sitting down. Tim's Sake says, nothing much, really. We were playing poker at the Golden Clover, and I went home straight after. So the Golden Clover is where Lauren and Kieran intercepted Anselo, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
I think so.
Okay, so to me at least, mentioning the Golden Clover, like maybe it's not the case that everyone who goes there is Phantom Scythe, but I think we know that Phantom Scythe people do go there. So that already raises some red flags here.
Yeah, and also mentioned that he was waiting for someone, like during those episodes. So it is likely that it's similar to the Grim Goblin or the Lonely Travelers Inn, or it's like a Phantom Scythe hotspot.
Yeah, and the Golden Clover, maybe we should look up the name because I just noticed it's a flower. Well, not a flower, but it's like a, plant name. So clovers are generally like good luck symbols, but let's see if there's a golden clover meaning. Let's see if anything comes up. Okay, I don't think there's any particular meaning here. Oh well. Okay. And Tim's Sake says, I went home straight after. The other players can confirm, and my neighbor saw me get home. And then Lauren asked, how long have you and Chow known each other? A couple of years. I used to work in his father's mines before I got my start in the trade business. Okay, interesting. Do you know if there was anyone who might want to hurt Chow? And he says, no, but it's a lie. And Lauren just stops writing because she knows it's a lie. And I'm sure this is like extremely useful in interrogations. It's honestly a shame she isn't a detective anymore because this is like perfect for her.
It's useful, but like at the same time, it's not technically a valid, like people could believe for sure, but when it comes down to it, it's not really a valid, like I'm sure that in an actual case, like she wouldn't be able to use that evidence. It's not valid confirmed evidence. Just because she heard that it was a lie doesn't mean that it's valid. People probably will not believe that.
Right. She mentions, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. That's part of her curse, is that she will know all these things, however, no one else will.
Right. And I know she mentions, I don't remember exactly where it is in the story, but at some point she mentions that she worked so hard on her other skills so that she could prove what she heard naturally, like as lies.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she'll have to then follow up with whatever other questions or other digging to be able to, prove it in a legitimate fashion. So she kind of looks up now, gives him a bit of a suspicious look and says, we found suspicious large sum transfers in his ledger. Do you know if he had any criminal associations? No, he was an honest man. Those are probably his train investments. Okay, so that's true. Or at least, he thinks he was an honest man. Right, the trains. He's been a big backer of railway development for the past 20 years and other projects started by the royal family. So what do you think?
He probably helped fund Allendale. And it seems like Chow did come from a wealthier family, seeing how his father did own a mining business or a mining operation. So that means he would have been in the royals' good graces, right? Especially if he helped fund the train station, and probably lost a lot of money after the Phantom Scythe bombing. But we do know that I believe F confirmed that Allendale was rebuilt, so he probably got more money there. But yeah, because of ties, like implied ties to the royals, it's likely why Chow was murdered. Sorry, Mindy, we couldn't hear you.
Well, yeah, I thought that makes sense. And now I'm trying to think into my whole, like, the royals are behind a Phantom Scythe theory. I'm trying to figure out how that would make sense. Anyway, okay. Well, if I come up with a better way to tie it in, I'll let you know. And Lauren asks, was he ever concerned about being targeted by the Phantom Scythe? It's public knowledge that they go after the supporters of the royal family. Okay. He says he never brought it up. And then he says, I had no idea the Phantom Scythe could know who he was, but that's a lie. So apparently he did know that the Phantom Scythe knew who he was. Yeah, not looking good for you, Sake. Mm-hmm. Or who would do this to him? And by the way, it took me like literally to I think last week to notice that Simsake had 2 color eyes. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah.
It kind of hasn't. I've noticed it, but I kind of I'll look at him and be like, oh yeah, he has. Like if you told me to describe him, I would describe the scar, but probably not the eyes because I just don't remember it.
Yeah, I noticed it, but it's not that important. Like when you think of Sake, you think of his scar, not his eyes. When you think of Lauren, you think of her eyes, but not Sake.
Is this supposed to be a scar, or is this supposed to be like a natural skin discoloration? Because if it's a scar, it might have a story, but
Yeah, because he's Phantom Scythe, I don't know. It seems like he's had this marking for a while now. So maybe even before the Phantom Scythe, so it could be just different skin coloration, which also affected his eye. I don't know if that also, if when you have different skin colors, it affects your eye. But I don't know. I think it's more fun to imagine it as a scar. Wonder where he got that scar from.
I'm honestly hoping that eventually we get some sort of story into it, if it is a scar, because I want to know what would give a scar that big. What happened?
I think we're gonna learn more about Tim's Sake in the future. I mean, even knowing what happens to him, like, he's a pivotal part of the story. And we have a lot of unanswered questions as to like what he was doing back in the diddle. So anyway, Lauren looks up again because she has heard his lies, and she says, "Indeed, nobody outside the Phantom Scythe could know for sure, aka I suspect you." And we see these people outside, and APD, they're observing through the the glass, and March, right? Is that a younger March? 1 year younger, says, "What is she doing?" So I'm surprised. Like, I don't think she's done anything wrong up until now. Like, I don't see how her question could make him say that.
I think it's because Lauren's demeanor kind of changed and she stopped writing. So she's not, I don't know, it looks like she started taking notes again. But she's noticing things, and I don't know, like, it's kind of weird because from an outside perspective, it seems like she's doing her job, like, but maybe like saying indeed nobody outside the Phantom Scythe could know for sure is just a tactic that the police don't use, I guess, or something, because she's trying to get him to lie to her, right? But he is lying to her, but to anyone else it's like you can't tell. So
maybe also she's focusing too much on the Phantom Scythe, which people probably already know she is obsessed with, and maybe like they wouldn't, like, it's not something they would think about in relation to a regular questioning, So Tim Say continues, and he says, "It would be awful to learn my friend was one of their victims." Again, that's a lie. And she said, "All right, you can stop lying now, steak." And she is grasping her pen really tightly. "How about you tell me what you did after you went home?" And he said, he starts getting upset. He's like, "Nothing. You really think I could hurt Kevin?" And nothing, of course, is a lie. And she says, "The second I mentioned the Phantom Scythe, your breathing changed, your pupils dilated, and you stopped making eye contact. Now, please stop lying. Your game won't work on me." Nice. And he's argumentative. He's like, "But I'm not. I would never kill him. He was my friend. I have no connection to the Phantom Scythe. Lie, lie, lie."
I feel like at this point he has been through a decent amount of interrogations like this. Like, he knows, it seems like he knows how to lie well. I mean, if I was there, I probably would have believed him, honestly. He does a good job of, playing like the innocent person here. And I think that this probably is not the first time that he's been interrogated.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially since it seems like he's been in the Phantom Scythe for quite a while now. So he probably has had to like go through quite a few interrogations as well. Like, it's unlikely that he hasn't. And if not, he probably has gotten training on what to do from the Phantom Scythe in case the police do apprehend him.
Yep. So now Lauren has this smirk on her face, and she's like, "Of course not. It's terrifying, isn't it? Insidious. They strike so suddenly. Nobody is safe." And she's kind of like giving him an out, but he doesn't even realize that she's like baiting him, because he sits back and he's relieved, and he thinks that she believes him. And he's like, "Yeah, just like the Allendale train station tragedy." Like, moron, he's so stupid. And then, because he thinks like that she's on his side, and then he goes into a massive lie. "Nobody could have known they would strike there. I, for one, was shocked." Ugh. This is like, don't volunteer information, dude. Like, I know you don't know that people have this ability, but like, don't say things unless it's necessary. Like, it's just such a stupid thing to say, in my opinion. Because
But
now,
I think he's trying to characterize himself as someone against the Phantom Scythe, because he probably figures that's what the police suspect him to be. So like, if he says these things, like if he brings it up and then he tries to show himself in opposition to it, he might think that it kind of work, like they would believe him.
even without Lauren's ability, to me, it sounds like that protested too much. Like, it seems like a totally unnecessary statement. It's like having to say like, "Oh, murdering children is bad. It's like, you don't have to say that. It's obvious. Like, if you have to say such a thing, like, people, you start looking at you and like, what's wrong with you? Like,
Mhm.
what have you gone through in your life that like you have to think about this problem?
Yeah, but they're also talking about an organization, like, you know, when you say that, what you said, it's pretty general, but like what Sake's bringing up is something that like everyone there is familiar with, I guess, so it makes sense, but like he's trying to make uh, a comparison, I think.
I think he's nervous at this point and he's blabbing also. So anyway, this lie, of course, sets Lauren off because this is her tender spot that she has not healed from at all. And she just, her pencil is just cracking, like she like smashes her pencil. And while he continues his line, he says, "What a horrible, senseless massacre, and it's all a lie." And Lauren is just blacking out. She has this like black negative, image of her, a bump. She looks up, you could see like she is triggered now. Like, we just had someone being triggered a couple episodes. Now Lauren is triggered and she's like snapping.
It takes me a bit to like think about it, like just going through the lies, and I'm realizing he genuinely is not upset for it. Like, he doesn't care.
Jerk.
I mean, he was one of those people though, right? Sake, he helped plan it, right? He helped set up the bombs.
I think so, yeah. And
And
he
now he's
doesn't feel
helping
bad
out.
for it.
Yeah, now he's helping out in the A7 operation. He wouldn't have any remorse.
Like, at least like you should say like, oh, it was a necessary evil. Like, but to just not care at all, so disgusting. Anyway, so Lauren has totally snapped. She is not in her mind anymore. She throws her chair back, grabs Sake by like his collar and shoves him against the wall so hard that she cracks the glass. Like, whoa, this girl. And she's like, "What did you just say?" And then of the APD watching on the other side, they're like, "Oh my God, what the hell is she thinking?" And they run, pull her out of there. And she says, I said, "Stop lying, bastard. You think we wouldn't know you're one of them?" And Tim Sake has this like grin on his face. "How did you know they would target the train station, not the palace that day? How?" And then they're rushing in the room. They're like, "What the hell are you doing, Sinclair?" And she's just got him by the collar. And they grab her. They're like, "Get the hell off him." He's like, "No, let go of me. This guy is lying. He's lying. He's part of the Phantom Scythe." And they're like dragging her away. And then she thinks to herself, and the Allendale train station's tragedy. And she's like, poor March. March is like usually so calm. And he's like, "And what told you that? His effing pupils? Have you completely lost it, Sinclair?" And he says, "Please forgive my colleague." He says that to Sake. And as he says that, somebody passes by outside. They say, "We found the murder weapon. It was his ex-wife. The fingerprints are a match." And then you see them, it looks like Lucas actually, dragging his wife past the hallway. And she's crying and she says, "It wasn't me. I'm being framed. I swear I'm innocent." And we see that's not a lie. Lauren's looking at her and she's saying, "Please." And then Lauren's like shocked, right? We see them reflected in her eyes. And she says, "No, that's not." And then she yells, "She's not the killer. The woman is innocent. He framed her. Go search his house and you'll see. Why won't you listen to me?" And that's the end of that memory.
I mean,
The funny
Lauren,
thing is that Tim's name is I think anagram of mistake, because I'm pretty sure because he's Lauren's mistake. I like it a lot.
but Lauren, no one's listening to you because you literally just slammed someone against glass. Like, I know, like he did do the Allendale, and that's not a good thing. But you slamming him against the glass is not a good thing either. Okay, like just because he's done bad things does not mean you can do bad things to him in return.
I agree. Like, just because I understand that she's upset and she's got good reason to be upset. A lot of people that she cared, like people she cared about, died there. and she still feels guilty about it.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, it's not an excuse to, like, I don't know. I feel like there's better ways. I get that she's upset, but I feel like there are better ways to take it out.
Mm-hmm. This
The whole
isn't humane
premise-
punishment,
The
right?
premise of a lawful society is that we establish, rules, and but we establish like criterion in order for punishments to be carried out. And criterion, you have to be proven guilty. And she did not prove any guilt. She's just like, I know
Mhm.
you're lying. So like, I am like the judge here and I'm going to slam you against the wall, right? That's not how a civilized society works.
Yep. Innocent until proven guilty. And while we know that Sake is guilty, he has not been proven to be guilty to the rest of the world.
And she is also really pulling her own reputation down with that action. If she ever wants to be taken seriously, she has to do things in the proper way. That's the only way she'll affect any change, right? She won't be able to affect change if she has an outburst. And then, as we see, she gets demoted and now she can't help in all the other cases and can't use her skills anymore. So you have to be, know how to bide your time and do things in the proper way so that you can actually get things done. So, but listen, the story wouldn't have happened if Lauren wasn't willing to do some external, outside of the law things.
Honestly, I love morally great characters, and I'm glad that Lauren is not just a perfect character, and I'm glad for that because it makes for much more interesting characters.
Mm-hmm.
I personally relate a lot to Lauren. Like I'm not as hot-headed as I used to be, but when I was younger, like I was terribly hot-headed. I was extremely opinionated. I always thought I was right, and I would get angry really fast. And there's still a part of me that has that. I just I've tried to improve over the years. I'm not an angry person really, but like in terms of opinions, I have very strong opinions. And over time, I've learned, that I don't know everything, and that my opinion is, just one little small dot in the rest of the world. But I totally relate to Lauren, and I like Lauren. Like the fact that she has these flaws doesn't bother me. I'm like, okay, these are flaws that I relate to and that I appreciate, because they also come with like a very passionate nature and like search for justice. So to me, it's always flip sides of the same coin. Like my husband and I have very different personalities. I'm like, I rush into things. My husband doesn't rush into things. So they both have their strengths and weaknesses. Like he doesn't get stuff done, and sometimes I do things and make decisions too quickly, and like maybe it wasn't the best choice. But like you can't say it's a fully bad trait or a fully good trait. Like everything has its pros and cons, and you have to just know how to use it and when to use it. So like I don't think Lauren, I appreciate that Lauren has that. But this is just, to me, like just builds out her full character.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, yeah, I don't really know what to say because you said it really well.
So now we're back in the present, and now we have a full context for why Lauren hates this man, basically, and what happened in the past and why she was demoted over this. And we totally understand why she was demoted, and we're like, why weren't you fired? But okay, like we get it. And here she is, basically in the same position as last time, where she slammed his head against the wall. And he says, "So we meet again, Detective Sinclair." And he's just laughing. Ugh. And she just responds by smashing him again. She's angry. And she's like, "Where have you been hiding, you piece of shit?" Okay. Not mincing any words. He says, "Are you sure you don't want to do this? The motion wasn't enough the first time. Beating up innocent passersby is low even for you." Which is like, Tim Zake knows exactly what happened with her. And he knows that like he is considered the righteous one in this situation because he was declared innocent. So now she's just totally attacking strangers,
And for someone looking on, he is just a random person on the street. And I'm glad that I don't think anyone saw her doing that, because she could be either fired, like especially the people at the police office, they know that she has a past with him, and like seeing her pretty much beating up the same person again years in the future is not going to be good on her.
Mhm. Lauren's doing what we in the industry like to call testing the limits of Herman's patience. Like,
She's close. She's really
yeah,
close.
she is exerting like actual police brutality right now. Like first with the slamming sake against the glass, right? Even though we knew he was guilty, right? Even if someone is guilty, they don't, police shouldn't be slamming people against walls and cracking like the glass against those walls. And then also like, what was she doing here? She like in the
Cracked
last
his head
episode,
against
she,
the wall twice.
yeah, she just like pummeled him into the wall.
I don't know how she
Oh.
just split his head open. I
Yeah.
guess she wanted him alive so he can answer her questions.
Mhm.
Oh, Lord.
Exactly. Doing that while wearing the badge of the APD, like, girl, do you understand why people don't like you? Why people don't like the police? And now that I think about it, it kind of reminds me of like, it reminds me of this scene that's in a different episode. It's farther into the future. And it's Kieran basically tells her that like people don't like the police around here. And you can see that the police in this area are like really bad people. And we were like, and Kieran says, or sorry, Lauren's, one of them's like, and I think it's Lauren's like, I'm not like that. And then Kieran's like, are you though? Because yeah, Lauren is like those police. At least like they're like the police system does breed like, you know, excessive violence and confidence in that violence, and it enables people to be violent like the way Lauren's doing, and she doesn't face super hard consequences. Like she was never fired for slamming sake against the glass, even though like I think it was Emma even mentioned it, but like, you know, maybe she should have, because that is an exertion of power over someone that she has detained and someone who like literally can't defend themselves in this situation.
Yeah, like it makes sense that she's upset, but still, like he's
It-
not going to go anywhere. You have him restrained in one spot. He can't
Mhm.
get out of there. Don't put more force on that and make it so much worse for you.
Yeah, Lauren's history and Lauren's experiences are not an excuse for her to abuse her position as an officer or detective, whichever she is.
I mean, here on the street, like, you know, even if she hadn't been a police officer, I suspect she would do the same exact thing, you know. But the fact is she does have a gun, which I don't know the gun control laws in Artalis, but like, yeah, that does give her, that is something that comes from her position. So she probably would have attacked him even if she wasn't in uniform. But yeah, she's definitely not doing a good job of representing it well right now.
Yeah. However, she wouldn't have known about Sake had she not had the uniform, had she not been a detective. Like she wouldn't at least have known about the you know, him being involved with Allendale initially.
Yeah. So Lauren says to herself, well, to him, I should never have saved you. Now we have another flashback where we see Sake lying on the floor, bloody, and Lauren looks like she's not performing CPR, but something, you know, like trying to help his
Stopping the blood flow.
Yeah. And she's like, tell me, how many people have you murdered by now? It's really, oh God. Poor Lauren, and Sake's just like, too bad you weren't able to prove anything. He's so annoying. Like, he does make you very angry at him. And she says, on the morning, and now she just wants to know the answers to her questions. On the morning of the bombing, November 13th, blank, blank, 17, you were in a black car with a license plate number Y59AGN. You drove right past the entrance to the Allendale train station. And we see the picture that she found in Anslow's notebook with Tim Sake in the car. What were you doing there that morning? And why were you using that car? And we see a little smirk coming out of Tim Sake. And he's like, is that all you've got, Detective St. Clair? Like something so trivial could prove anything. And that part is a lie. So clearly it's not trivial and it could prove something. So she has this little smile because she knows she got some information. And she says, that drive-by was no coincidence. You knew they were targeting the train station. Why risk being present on the site unless you had a role to play? And he's like, I don't have the skills to pull that off, which is a lie. She's like, oh, don't be so humble, Sig. You absolutely do. And he's like, gives a glance at her, and I think that's like a nervous glance. And
I
now
think he
she
knows
says,
that. I don't think that he knows a thing about her ability. I don't think he knows anything about it. But I feel like he is for sure a bit nervous now after he said something and her being like totally, not upset about it. I think that he either suspects that she is really good at getting information out or just like she already knew that stuff already.
right, even if
I
it's
don't
not
know.
like, even if he doesn't know that it's kind of like a supernatural activity, like some people, you can tell when people aren't lying. Like it's not like he can tell that she doesn't believe him.
Yeah. I don't know. I could see Sake thinking that Lauren has some sort of like, whether it be supernatural or not, having some like really good ability at detecting lies. Like I feel like he would have picked that up from their interrogation, especially with Sake or on the end of the episode when he goes yes, no, maybe, like maybe, just to like confuse her and play with her. And I think it's also just something that Sake has picked up, though. Like he's noticed this, and because Emma, you've heard me say this probably a million times, Mindy, I'm not so sure. But something that I've like just had in my mind for months now, like probably since early fall. The best way to manipulate Lauren or the best way to get her to do what you want her to do is to be honest with her. And that's what Sake does when he tries to get her mad.
I feel like, I think he's at this point getting her upset on purpose.
And
He knows, I think, enough about her to know that she is fueled by information and is very easy to get upset.
yeah. I mean, we can call Sake stupid, but he's pretty perceptive sometimes.
I never
Like-
called him stupid. I know it's very popular to like say that everyone here has one brain cell, but I never said that. I think
Kieran and Lauren have
almost
one
everyone
brain
here is
cell.
clever.
Kieran and Lauren have one brain cell. Like Kim has all the brain cells, but yeah, Sake can be kind of clever sometimes, as annoying as he is other times. But yeah, Sake probably learned a lot about Lauren from the interrogation scene that we saw earlier. Like he probably learned as much about her as she learned about him, and he wasn't even the one asking questions.
So she basically shows him what she's figured out. She says, you said you used to work at Chow's mines. With only a little digging, pun intended, I found out you were handling dynamite. So if you want me to make a wild guess, I'd say you were involved in the bombing of Allendale train station. And now he looks at her like, oopsie, like I'm in caught. Like he's concerned. And she says, but you weren't alone. You had a getaway driver. A man with 4 fingers is pretty memorable. And then we have a focus on the driver who has the right ring finger is missing half of it. And he says, how could you possibly know this? Don't make me repeat myself. Why were you in the car with that man? He's like, haha, okay, I'll tell you. Just because I like you, Sinclair. Which, by the way, is true. He does like her. It's so weird.
I'm not sure if Lauren's ability picks up on sarcasm or not. So even it might be a bit sarcastic and doesn't pick up.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I don't
He
remember.
does seem like he has some
Yeah.
appreciation of her. He says, "You're, the most bullheaded bastard I ever met. We're practically old friends by now." I think
Yeah.
in some way he does appreciate her. I guess that's what I think.
I think he considers them to be like he and Lauren. I think he considers her to be like his arch nemesis, like in some story or something like that.
Yeah, like a
So.
formidable foe.
Yeah.
He says, sorry, it's entertaining to watch you struggle while everyone believes you're just crazy. Ouch. That hurts. But I can see why he would enjoy it. But now he says something untrue. The car was borrowed from a random rich family. That's not true. It wasn't borrowed, it wasn't random. They were going to die anyway. We figured they wouldn't miss it. So that is true. And now she starts shaking because it seems Tim Sick doesn't know that that was her parents. And she says, who else was working with you? She's squeezing him while she's
Well,
shaking.
Mindy, he probably does know. We find out in the next chapter, but he probably did know because he said it wasn't a random rich family, and he knows her last name is Sinclair, and he probably knew that the people in the car were the Sinclairs because of how it was reported on if he didn't know prior. So he knows that she recognizes the car, and so he's just playing with her at this point. Like, it was just a random rich family. They were gonna die anyways. Like, he's telling her that.
And she asks him, who was working with you? He says, nobody. It was just the two of us in there, which is false. Both of those are false. So there was someone else working with him, and it was not just the two of them. And what's true is I didn't even know the driver's name. So he didn't know that. And she bams his head on the wall again. I'm like, ah. And she says, Tim, who was helping you? And he has that smirk again. And she says, wait, how many people were in that car? Because now she's picking up on that lie. And she's aghast. And she's like, were you all bombers? And he's like, of course not, which is true. You can't expect kids to. And then she cuts him off. She's like, what? Children? What do you mean? And at this point, we see somebody standing there with her arms crossed outside the alley, dressed like super snazzy for like a Monday morning. It is our darling Bella. I think she's wearing the
She
same
always
outfit.
dresses snazzy though.
Right. Yeah.
I've
she
not
does.
seen an outfit that is less than fabulous.
What?
Oh my god. Is that
What?
what I think it is?
What?
Hold up. Look at that
That's-
poster on it.
yeah.
Does that say
Pygmalion?
Pygmalion? I don't know how to say the name. Is that a circus poster?
Looks like it.
And does that say like Pygmalion? I don't know. I don't know how to say it. I'm probably butchering the name, but it's the guy who fell in love with a statue from
Right.
Greek mythology.
Mhm.
Is that like,
Right.
is that a reference to the Circus Royale? Because it looks like someone from the circus, like the poster.
That might
and then-
be.
The reference is probably more to the show, which would be like George Bernard Shaw, like wrote at this time period, which was, basically My Fair Lady, but My Fair Lady is a little different. So I'm trying to figure out like maybe somebody from the poor, right? We know the circus is from Great Chapel, right? So maybe
Mhm.
like, and then, he trained her and he passed her off as royalty. That was like the whole story. So yeah, maybe it's like, ooh, theory. Oh my gosh. Remember, it's like, okay, I'm trying to figure out how does this relate to my theory of like Kieran being like a royal child and dressed like a pauper, right? So maybe this is like the opposite. There's like the royal kid, the prince, Arthur. Okay, maybe not the prince, but maybe like Elizabeth or maybe Edward. Maybe they're really not real royalty. Maybe they're paupers from the street that are passing as royalty.
I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
I don't think we know anything about Elizabeth, where she came
Yeah.
from, like what she was before. It's possible that she was, I don't think that she was poor because of the way that she treats the poor people. But
Had
it is a
theory.
it is a
that-
possibility.
Yeah, I read this. I don't remember whose theory it was, but that maybe because she came from like a poor background and has gone out of it, maybe she has like disgust for how she was raised or where she's from, and that's why she hates it. Which some people do, like when they've had a very bitter experience and they manage to get out of it, they kind of like don't want to think about the past and just hate everything about it. So it's kind of like this perverted self-hatred, really. Which is an interesting theory. But that'd be cool. I wonder, I mean, it could just be nothing, but that would be cool if it was like a clue.
Mhm. I will be sending this to the Discord once we finish with this episode. Because I'm thinking like, this guy was an artist, like Pygmalion. I'm not saying it right. Hold up. Pygmalion. This guy was a sculptor, so he made art. right? And he fell in love with someone unattainable, which was a statue of the goddess Aphrodite. So now I'm like, who else here is an artist, right? Rumored to be in the Circus Royale, or like theorized to be in the Circus Royale, who is probably gonna fall in love with someone who they can't really be with.
Nice.
Mindy, you
nice.
should be happy about this.
Yeah, I'm happy. It's a romantic theory. This is great.
This does. It fits
Oh, wait, but wait,
really
what happens
well.
in the end? What happens in the end of Pygmalion? Probably something tragic, right? Wait, let's see.
What I
Pygmalion
remember is
story.
that I just remember like him going to go worship Aphrodite, and he prays for like a wife as beautiful as the statue, and Aphrodite turns the statue into a woman. So he does get to
Oh yeah, that one.
Okay,
I never knew
so
his
he
name,
makes
but
the
I do know
statue.
that.
He kisses the
I mean-
statue. Aphrodite granted his wish. He married the sculptor. Aphrodite made the statue into a woman. Oh wow, this was nothing tragic happens. They just get married and have a kid. Okay,
yeah. Mindy,
interesting.
it's a good myth. Like
That's great.
it has a happy ending. So
Lauren and Kieran
They're
are
one of the only
destined to be
ones.
together.
there's
Lauren, by the
your
way, Lauren's like a
serotonin for
statue.
today. Sorry, yeah.
Lauren's cold, right? And like unemotional at this point. And maybe Kieran's kiss is going to melt her and make her warm and affectionate.
Maybe. Okay. I personally think this, now that I think about it, this myth would work like really well with another PH ship. But I'm not gonna
Okay.
talk about it right now.
Fine.
I
Is
know
it your
what you're
favorite
talking
ship
about.
ever?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
But
All right. Yeah, it
so
would.
continue.
Okay, so Bella is standing there in the corner observing, and Lauren is yelling, "What have you done to them? Are the people in the car still alive?" And Bella is starting to walk towards them. "Answer me." And Tim Sake turns around, kind of sees that she's coming, sees that she is unsheathing her dagger, her golden viper venom dagger, and he says, "Yes," which is a lie. Right? The question was, are they still alive? Are the people in the car still alive? He says, "Yes." And then he says, "No, I don't know." And they're all lies. So
So
clearly,
I think
Okay, wait. Can I, oh,
There-
Emma, wait.
there are people that are dead. There are people that are still alive. They're not all dead.
Yeah, okay. So basically, the breakdown of this is there, as Emma said, people are alive, people are dead, right? Because are they alive was a lie, so there has to be dead people. At least one dead person and at least one alive person. Sake is alive right now, and he was in that car, which
Yeah.
means everyone else in that car right now who was in that car could be dead because Sake qualifies as alive.
I
So
don't
he
know, though.
fits the alive quota.
I don't know. I don't know if that's a really good conundrum. I don't know if Sake counts because it's obvious to Lauren that Sake is alive, right? So to me, it's like the question is about the rest of the people in the car. Like, are the people in the car? Like, I don't think he counts, but that's a really good, I don't know. That's a good point.
But Sake in his mind is probably considering all the people in the car, right? Because he's thinking about himself and maybe someone else. Like he's thinking, so that's he thinks about them. Well, he thinks about himself and the other person and maybe another person, right? When he says no, but then he thinks about dead people when he says yes.
Oh boy, important information. And then at this moment, we see Lauren's just like distraught face and Bella raising her dagger really high over her. It's a fantastic image. It's like, no. And she's like, "What?"
Oh, it's such a good panel. Like one of the best panels, I think, in my opinion, in season 1.
I love this panel a ton.
Nope. And she's bringing the dagger down, but now we see that she's lifted the knife part up and what's it called? The hilt. The hilt is facing downwards. And Lauren is now blurred out. And we have a rack. And everything is black. Obviously to symbolize Lauren is now in the darkness and black. blacked out. And Sake says, "What are you doing here? I was handling this." And she's like, "Oh, is that what you call running your mouth? I was following you to make sure you didn't get into trouble. It looks like we can't leave you on your own for 2 minutes." Bella is like so insulting.
I
And
love
it
her
was
for that though.
what?
I love her for that. She's honestly one of my favorite fictional characters. Just for
Same
the
here.
fact that even though she is probably technically considered a villain, there are so many potential backstories as to why she ended up like that. And I honestly can't help but admire her, because assuming that women are still, you know, less like in the same as in this world, like she probably had to work twice as hard to get to the position that she has now. And even though it's as an assassin killing people, it's still, she worked hard for it.
Belladonna is one of those characters where you don't really know what's going to happen with her. I myself wouldn't put her as a villain, but she's definitely right now an antagonist. But like just very easily within 1 or 2 episodes, she could totally become a protagonist if the authors wished for that to happen. And I believe it was either in between season 1 and 2 or at the like early season 1, F did say that Bella would be getting more attention in future episodes and in the future storylines. So we will be seeing more Belladonna, even though in season 2 we didn't get that much of her. She's being set up for a lot of things. And yeah, the possibilities are endless. Belladonna could go literally anywhere.
So we see now like this, it kind of looks like Lauren did, you know, her eyes are open, like we're looking through her eyelids, everything's very blurry. Her hand is like reaching out from the ground. She sees just their feet, and you know, say it goes tsk, and then we see her hand go down, and her like the frame get even narrower. So Lauren's obviously like blacking out. And Bella says, "The purple hyacinth may have beat me to the other 4 idiots, but I'll be more than happy to finish the job the second you step out of line." And you know, it's just becomes blurrier and blurrier. And Lauren is like basically almost passed out. And Sig asks, "Why don't you kill her?" And we see only a little bit, like Lauren can see like a teeny tiny blurry drop. And Bella says, "There will be too many potential witnesses." And that's how it ends. So here's the thing, very important, I just noticed. It seems as though it's kind of a question. It seems as though she blacked out right before Bella said there would be too many potential witnesses. I personally think that's a flimsy excuse and Bella is lying. So the question is Lauren still awake to hear this? And like, is it true? Or has Lauren blacked out already and that's why it's in black and not in red?
I mean, she might have closed her eyes, but you could still hear it at the end.
It looks like she was blacking out though, not
Yeah,
like closing your eyes to rest.
I mean,
I know,
it's
but like
honestly with Bella, totally honestly a plausible thing. We don't know much about her and her motives yet. She seems to just be doing, you know, taking the highest offer money wise, but we don't know much about, you know, her motives, why she's still on the Phantom side, anything like that. And she could be lying straight to Sake's face. I would not put it past her.
I've always interpreted it as her having like multiple reasons for not killing her. One, because you know, golden viper venom is probably expensive, and you know, just waste. It might be a waste if it's like if she wasn't ordered to kill this person. It could be that she like. I mean, we just saw Lauren and Sake in the last episode in like this place full of people, and they're just in an alleyway. It's surprising that no one saw them, right? Lauren was interrogating Sake. It's like surprising no one saw them. So, like from the like outside the alley. So, Bella's right. There would have been a lot of potential witnesses. It was only a matter of time before someone came across Lauren and Sake. However, they might just mind their own business if they see her in an APD uniform. I also just think that Bella doesn't like to kill people. Like she there's no proof, but she is kind of like a foil to Kieran. So assuming
think
that
that
she
as well.
and Kieran are more similar than we initially perceive is not that far-fetched.
I mean, people label Bella as like someone that, enjoys killing people. And we don't have much proof of that. Like, yes, she does use the golden viper venom, but is there anything saying that it's her choice?
Well, she says a lot of times, she's like, oh, this is so much fun to watch them. It's such a delight. But we always, at least I took her at face value until, and spoilers now, until the episodes way, way, way later, where we learned a little bit more about her background. And then we learned, okay, it may not be so much a choice. But until now, she's just presented a very flippant attitude. And she, claims to enjoy killing and completely not care.
I
There's
mean,
more to
that's
her.
kind of like what Kieran was like, though. That was like what Kieran was like at the beginning of the series. However, we knew when he was lying because Lauren was around. Bella, I think this is like one of Bella's only scenes with Lauren, and maybe like so far the only times that they've actually somewhat interacted. And even then, it wasn't like them talking. It was just Bella knocking her out, and that's tricky because we actually never really know when she's like during serious moments for her when she's actually lying or not because Lauren's not around. Our lie detector is not around. So Bella could literally be saying the exact opposite of like everything that she means and we wouldn't really know. But yeah. Also about the golden viper venom, I'm not sure if I mentioned it in the 91 podcast. I'm just going to say it now. I'm pretty sure she doesn't use the venom by choice. However, she does prefer blades over guns because the venom is expensive and her father figure is Redcliffe and Redcliffe is hella rich. So he's probably the one supplying her with the venom. Because Herman in one of the episodes, maybe it was episode 80 or 82, he says that like Lauren's family, the Sinclairs, would have been able to afford it. I personally don't think that Bella has accumulated as much wealth as the entire Sinclair family.
Good point.
However,
I mean,
Redcliffe definitely has, if not more.
I think people put Bella out to be a terrible person. And I think that there is a lot more to her that we aren't seeing because we aren't seeing her not as an assassin. It's the same with Kieran. If I just saw assassin Kieran, I would hate him. I would think that, he's he literally just kills people. And so far, all we've seen of Bella is when she's an assassin, mostly. And or, putting on a front. And I'm hoping that we can see what she's like when she is by herself and not an assassin and just Kit doesn't have to, and seeing if everything really is a front and she is actually a lot more like Kieran.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, up until those episodes with Bella and Nera and Radcliffe, I was like, yeah, she is what she says she is. But now I'm like, nope, there's more. But anyway, I think she's lying about the potential witnesses part because later on she kills Tim Sake in the flippin' circus with hundreds and hundreds of people around her. So I'm like, doesn't strike me as a very good excuse. So I think that she has her own reason for not wanting to kill Lauren, whether it's she doesn't like killing people, period, whether it's she's been spying already on Lauren and Kieran and she knows who they are and she supports their mission, or she doesn't want to hurt Kieran. I think there's definitely a reason she's not killing Lauren.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Sake is bad news for Lauren, so it does make sense if people try to keep him away from her, which might be if there's someone in the Phantom Scythe trying to protect Lauren, then they're gonna try to keep Sake away from her any way they can, whether it be knocking Lauren out, having Bella knock Lauren out, or having Bella murder Sake entirely. So yeah, it was a pretty good episode. We learned a lot in this episode.
Only a lot of information here.
Yeah, a lot of theory information, especially about the kids in the car, right? That was a big theory that's still ongoing, right? People will still discuss this extensively. And we also got the short-lived theory. It wasn't super short-lived, but it had a good run of everyone thinking that Lauren shot Sake and then she saved him.
That's funny. Yeah, I forgot about that. I mean, I wasn't present at that point. All right. Well, any other last thoughts before we wrap it up?
The top comment
Definitely.
is really funny. It says $100,000 to my name. Kieran was in that car. My personal bet, who I think it is, who's in that car, or the kids in the car, is Bella and Dylan. Those are my guesses.
I do as well. I think there's a possibility that Dylan did not die in Allendale, but I don't think he's alive now.
Mm-hmm.
I have no opinion, honestly. Like, I don't know who was in the car. I don't know if Dylan is alive. I'm fully any of them can happen, and I'm like, okay, they all seem equally plausible to me. I'm just waiting
I
to
should
be
say, I'm just gonna say, if you don't see the body, they're not dead. Until you see the characters are only alive. Characters are only alive until you see their dead body.
And, like, even if there's a dead person report, it isn't necessarily correct. So,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
all right. Well, thank you so much for joining for this episode. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having
hosting.
us, as always.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I'll see y'all next week.
Bye,
Bye.
Mindy. Have a good evening.
Have a good night.
Thanks. Bye. Thank you so much to my current patrons: Susie, Lady Libris, Lily, Jenny, Haley, Maria, Molly, Veronica, Emily, Joe, Rochelle, Saucy Tacos, Meg, Ann Rose, Priya, Alexa, Misty, Laura, Joanne, Patty, Jen, Imelda, Esther, I'm watching you, Taurus, Poppy Seed, Marie, Jen, Emily, Jean, Jen, Erin, D, and Kay. Your support is truly appreciated.